wanted to get started with combat sports?
Yeah, so Adam Hebenstreich. Now I'm at a crusty old 45 years old. What was that third question you had?
How many fights have you had?
Fights I've had, and this is still, looking back, I'm still trying to figure out what it was, but I want to say 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Between just two different organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your accolades within the sport?
So I was fortunate enough to win that belt right there, which some people may say, you're fucking 45, why you still got that thing out? But hey, it was a huge accomplishment for me.
Absolutely.
And I started fighting at 30 years old, or I started training at 30 years old. Really, actually, right before that. So I remember sitting in a bar with a buddy of mine, and I'd always been a huge UFC fan, and always been, but also loved Muay Thai and kickboxing and really every combat sport there is out there. And I remember telling, my friends always were like, you're such a big fan, why don't you just do it? Like, just go do it. And I finally was like, you know what, I'm just going to step foot in the gym and see what happens. And so I bought some gear. And the reason I did it was because for the 10 years between 20 and 30, I basically partied every weekend, tailgated, just did anything and everything I could to ruin my body.
Yeah.
And so by about 29 and a half, 30 years old, I was like, you know what, I need to do something else. If I go on this path, my ass is done by 35. I'm partying way too hard. I'm doing way too much. So, bought the gear, walked into, the Lion's Den, which not the old school hardcore Lion's Den, but the commercialized one. But Ken Shamrock, his kids were there. And so that was my first gym. And that's the reason I really, really started was I love combat sports in general, but also, I needed a change in life.
Yeah. And that part right there is so awesome for me and then the people watching to see, because other people are out there. Yeah, a lot of people do switch from bad decisions to good ones.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear it.
Yeah, man.
Can you share your journey into combat sports? You kind of already did, but
Sure.
Who was your first coach at the Lion's Den?
Yeah.
And how did they influence your development?
Yeah, this was the first gym I went to. There's some funny stories, I got a few for you, but my first coach was Justin Hardig, was his name. He was, I believe, he played college football at Ball State. He's actually out, I believe, in Michigan now, and he actually is with a team called Murcielago, and they have Joaquin Buckley, the dude that did the little spinning back kick.
Oh, okay.
And I don't talk to Justin as much as I used to, but he's been training that guy for quite some time. So
that's awesome.
He's an amazing guy. He was probably the first guy I met when I went to the Lions Den, and then there's a few other guys, Mondo and some guys that, that we ended up bonding with and being really good friends with. But Justin was just, he was hard-nosed, but he was such a nice guy, and he had so much talent and knowledge with regard to like how you can get better, how you should train. He came from the old school mindset of like grinding, getting in there, sparring, making contact with one another and getting used to that. So that first period that I went into the Lions Den, I got my ass kicked quite a bit, right? and 30 years old, I think I've been there, done that, and I'm this tough. I'm a badass dude, I'm out on the streets. I'm so tough, and then my first or second week there, I'm already getting my ass kicked. But the funny thing is, in a story I probably haven't shared with you, but 16-year-old girl was there. That's very, very well known these days, internationally. 16 years old, I'm 30, and it's my second week of training, and I'm still out of shape. I don't know proper anything. And they decide to throw me in with this girl. And before I know it, my mouthpiece is knocked out. I got a bloody nose, and it's only about a minute and a half into the friggin' round. And I'm like, she's 16. I'm fucking 30 years old. Sorry, I don't mean to.
No, say whatever you want.
And I just got my ass kicked by a chick. That's still in high school. So those are the type of things that I went through in that first really year and a half, 2 years, which is about that time I spent at the Lions Den, and then it became International Fight Center, International Fight Gym, or something like that. Same place, different name, but a lot of the same guys, a lot of the same core crew was there. But that's what I remember from that place was just a lot of hard sparring, a lot of just grinding, learning, losing weight. Like when I came into this, I was overweight and you know, I was in terrible shape. And so, you know, it all kind of, that's where it all kind of molded everything to start for me, but also bonding and just meeting so many cool people and guys I'm friends with to this day, you know what I mean? And you know, we don't talk as much anymore. Some do, some I don't, but it was just cool to be able to meet all those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
What was the big difference between the Lion's Den and Nevada Muay Thai with training?
So Lion's Den was heavily kind of geared towards the professional guys too. And so, you know, you'd get to mix in with them and you'd get to, you know, and they were at certain levels of their careers in certain areas. And so, but it was more so MMA. It was more so tied to like, you know, groundwork, jiu-jitsu, boxing. It wasn't as Muay Thai or kickbox focused there. And a lot of it was again, just getting in there and scrapping in the cage they had there. But you get to Nevada Muay Thai, and it was more about technique. It was more about, you know, knowledge, strategy,
setting things up, whatever.
Yeah, setting things up, how to approach a fight. You know, guys like Zach and Willie, and of course Casey Bolkenbush, and Brennan, and the leaders that were there at the time, and Trent, and you know, all of those guys were very welcoming to anybody that came, and you know, regardless of getting your ass kicked by them most of the time, they were very helpful in terms of like, you know, helping you get better and get ready for if you had fights coming up, whatever it may be. But you know, we all know Casey was just, you know, he is and was a great leader. So you know, you'd follow him into battle. Yeah.
What do you think that the approach with your training and, let's say, sparring partners and competition at Lion's Den and then being molded into Nevada Muay Thai, do you think that helped you with your, I'll say it as a Farang, but like Muay Mat, like bite down on your gum shield, overhands, hooks, low kicks? Did that really like mold your style? Yeah.
And you know, in between there, I was at a place called Battleborn MMA. So that was kind of sandwiched in between, and I was actually spending time at Battleborn and Nevada Muay Thai, but Battleborn and the Lion's Den, you know, IFC was, like I said, just heavy contact, heavy physicality. It was, you know, at Battleborn, I remember days when we were sparring just with the MMA gloves, which I wasn't used to that shit, you know what I mean? And we're getting black eyes, and we're, you know, that's when I met little Alex, big Alex now. And he was about 15 years old, you know, he's still, you know, a little guy. Talking shit to you, by the way. But you know, those two facilities were heavy, helping the pros that were there. In addition to a lot of it was just more contact. Some of it was a lot of technique and a lot of training and drilling and stuff. But that's what I recall with biting down on your mouthpiece was like, you get put in the cage, especially when we had a cage at Battleborn and at IFC, and you either do Shark Tank or whatever it is. But you're gonna get you either get your ass kicked or you know, it's either one or the other. So
hammer nail fucked up or fucking someone else up.
Exactly, right. So you're gonna take a beating or you're gonna give it. You know, and most of the nights you're gonna take it. So that's how it was.
That's awesome, man. What in your opinion, what qualities define an exceptional coach in the realms of Muay Thai, MMA, and or, you know, same thing, kickboxing? So with, you know, the three gyms that you just mentioned, what was very helpful to you and what was not so helpful to you?
Sure.
Like sparring hard wise, you know, training wise, whatever it is.
I mean, I would say, you know, for a coach, consistent growth in mindset and knowledge, like building their knowledge base in the sport. You know, that's something that Brennan, Zach, you know, Casey, Rich Montoya, who was at Battleborn, Justin, all those guys, just they're all into learning and understanding the sports that they train people on, and understanding, you know, how to best get your athletes to perform. And so, you know, that's the number one thing I think to me is continuing education and continuing to build your craft and learn what, you know, learn and evolve too. You know, the sport, you see, kids like that go out to Thailand and fight out in Thailand, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't as prominent 10 years ago.
Oh,
So
100%.
so you got these guys coming back and are just so knowledgeable from the origins of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what kind of a great coach is to me, is somebody who brings experience, but it additionally brings continuing education. But again, you see coaches out there that are just mindset. They maybe never even competed.
Yeah.
But they're very smart and they continually educate themselves, which I think is great.
100%. Man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Going into like training evolution, reflecting on your 10 years plus in the sport, how has your training regimen evolved from when you first started to, getting that strap to now? How has it changed? And obviously life happens, we get older, all those different things. For my case, you get a kid at 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
So you obviously have to fucking, make changes. But how did it evolve for you over time?
Well, first I started, again, at early 30s. At the time, I thought I was old, but now I think that's young. And I wish I was that age again. But, but it was heavy, centered on trying to lose weight, trying to understand why things are the way they are, why you throw jabs, why you throw kicks, why you set things up. Really, it was the first 5 or so years was just really trying to get up to speed on what I missed in my 20s and all that time that these guys have been doing it. You know what I mean? So a lot of it was trial and error and getting my butt whooped a few nights a week. And that really didn't stop until I tore my ACL at RCK a couple, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. No, way longer than that. But I tore my ACL, but at that time I was still going hard. I was still trying to keep up with the youngins. I was still trying to do everything they did. And I could tell, though, it was starting to wear off. It's part of the reason I stopped fighting, too, is sometimes you lose that killer instinct that want to go in. And I want to go in and hurt somebody and finish somebody. And I kind of realized towards the end of my career, especially and with training, was I wasn't as hungry to get into a war with somebody.
Exactly,
I mean?
100%.
So, but that's kind of how it changed in training, too. I went from more of a, I want to be in every sparring session I can be in, whether I get my ass kicked or not, to, I'm going to let the young guys kind of battle it out a few nights a week.
Go exactly.
Do some other shit.
Oh, Trent always says it when we're training. Because we were talking about, me going to Thailand and how he's always wanted to have a fight over there.
Yeah.
It's like you better train your fucking ass off and be about it, because if you're not about it, you'll find somebody who is about it.
Yes.
And in that case, man, you're getting fucking knocked out, TKO'd, whatever, fucking torn ACL, whatever.
ACLs. Yeah, man. And that's one thing I learned, just to expand on that, is over those years, was like, you got to keep leveling yourself up, right? You can't miss nights in the gym.
Yep.
You can't go sandbag it for a few days. Yeah. You got to be invested and fully 100% committed, to what you're doing outside of whatever else work or whatever else you have going on.
Yeah.
Being a parent.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned as well, was like, you also have to constantly improve and train and get yourself where you need to be. Otherwise you can get your ass kicked in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. How have changes in the gym environments and routine over the years impacted your preparation for fights? Gym drama, whatever you can kind of throw in that.
Yeah, man. No, I it was different. I went to Arizona for 5-6 years, and I just got back last year. And when I left, everybody was kind of under the same roof, right? I see that everybody's branched off. Everybody's kind of got their own thing now, and that's great. But I do miss those days of being able to walk into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Nevada Muay Thai, and there's everybody, the whole crew's right there, and we go in and you got everybody that you need that helps you get better, right? And now you kind of got to bounce around.
Exactly.
To get the work you want. If I'm that age where I'm competing again, that's what I'm doing.
100%.
You know what I mean? As opposed to when you were starting out and I was starting out, we had everybody, all the talent, all the guys that could make you better in the same room.
Yeah.
and that I think was a big reason why we were pretty successful in
Absolutely.
those days.
Absolutely.
And there were some real stars, Willie, Zach.
Yeah.
There were some guys that went on and did things internationally, and other guys like Brennan who has an amazing gym that is
100%, man.
super popular now, and I just think there's always going to be change. You just gotta, how do you adapt to it, and what are you going to do to continue to work on yourself?
100%. I was talking to Brennan about it. I was asking him. I was like, do you think that it's because like Willie said the exact same thing. He was like, bro, I fucking missed the old days. Like, it was just so fun going there. But I was asking Brennan, I was like, do you think, because if you're not from the Reno combat sports like scene here, you don't really know.
No.
Right? And I was asking Brennan, I was like, dude, do you think that it's a part of like the 24/7 lifestyle of, gambling and hookers of Reno, and then you throw in fucking booze and, drugs, and then you got the egos and, the dick measuring contests and all that
100%.
shit. And he was like, yeah, probably. And I'm like, no, I really think that's a huge part of it is like, we're beating the shit out of each other so we could beat somebody else up. And then we have all this crazy debauchery, if you will.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a small town, so it's like you run into people.
Everybody knows each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my favorite time was after fights because the whole team would go out and rage, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some funny shit happened, after those times, up in Tahoe and then, at the Grand Sierra and all that stuff. But yeah, man, that's one thing I miss a lot. I miss being able to walk in there, seeing Alex, seeing Willie, Trent, Zach, Brennan, everybody, the whole, anybody I'm missing, man, I miss all you guys because that was just such a fun time, and it was early for me still, 3-4 years into it to like have those guys around.
100%.
And
you know who
women
I miss?
too. There were some good women.
Yeah, Jillian.
Jilly, Veronica Rothenhausler. I don't know if you remember her.
Oh, I remember.
It's an older name, but she was at Battleborn with us, and she ended up in Vegas and ended up winning some big fights out there, and was on Inside MMA and all kinds of stuff. So it's cool when you see people from around here like Peyton Talbot and Mario Batista used to come out here and train with us from. We had that crew too in Winnemucca. I don't know if you remember those guys, but Hernan, Mario, man, there was others. There's some other ones. But those guys would come and train with us. But you see where Mario is now? That's freaking crazy. You see where the girl who beat my ass when she was 16 is now, Paige Van Zandt. And Peyton Talbot is just crushing it, man. And he's from a different gym that I've ever been to.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool of that like, the senior. And just to end that is like, it's funny. I talked to, a lot of my friends aren't into this. Do you need to do something?
No, you're good.
A lot of my friends aren't really as into fighting as I am, right? As into combat sports. But one of my buddies who's he rarely went to my fights. He went a few times, but he's probably one of my best friends. Yeah. And one thing he said to me that stuck with me is like, you always know when a guy's from Reno when they're fighting. There's a certain style. There's something about him. Yeah. There's something about the way they carry themselves in there that that guy's from Reno. Yeah. There's something about him.
I fucking like that.
You see it even in like Peyton Talbot and some of these other guys that are coming up from even other gyms. There's just something about the area. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just, we're just a town of gritty, real life people who aren't afraid to get in a scrap, what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to any gyms in Arizona? You had to.
I did a few. I went to Scottsdale Boxing Club, which was pretty cool. It had some old school boxing, like big time dudes. I was able to train with a heavyweight. I got out to Scottsdale, got settled, and then I started, looking around. What kind of gyms can I go to? There's tons of gyms there. There's some really prominent gyms and prominent people in these gyms, and but it was hard for me to want to go to a different gym, because I felt so comfortable and it was so great when we were here. So it was like I felt almost like I was betraying somebody if I walked in and became a part of this whole other thing, because
that's the humble nature in you though, right?
Yeah, man. And I was just like, I don't want to go, and it's cool to meet people and all that, but you'll never have what you had with the guys that you really grew up with or grew up doing this with. And so,
100%, yeah.
but I did manage to find Scottsdale Boxing Club, which is obviously in Scottsdale. And I was training for a bit there with a dude. He was a heavyweight from the 80s and 90s. His name was Obed Sullivan. And he was a Marine before that. And he was just a tank back in the day. And he fought some of the big names. I believe it was like Riddick Bowe and Buster Douglas. I mean, he was in that era.
Holy shit.
And he trained people at the gym. And so, I did sessions with him. It was just boxing. And he was obviously a little older, but the dude would put you through some gnarly workouts, you know what I mean? And held mitts for me and everything. So that was awesome. And also at the gym was a guy named Vasily Girov. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but he's a guy from Russia. And back in the day too, probably early 2000s maybe. He was as big as some of the guys are now, like a Terrence Crawford or a.
Really?
Back then he was undefeated. He was like 40-something and 0. And I forget he had a bit of a rivalry with somebody that was pretty big time back then too. But it was just cool to see because I've always been, boxing was my thing. Mike Tyson was my thing growing up. Like, my mom would have a party every time Mike Tyson fought, and literally all my friends from school would come over. Yeah, like we'd have parties and stuff when I was in middle school and high school when he'd fight. And
that's awesome, man.
And she's a little crazy was a little crazy about sports, and so when he lost, watch out because she's kicking shit. She's gonna knock shit over, and same for the, her football teams. But
that's awesome.
But boxing was always like probably my number one thing until UFC and all that came around, and so it was just really cool to be in a gym and seeing these guys that I watched. I actually saw Vasily Girov fight here in Reno at Lawler Event Center probably in 2022 or something like that. Back when we used to have the big fights here in town, and so that was cool to see those guys and be around them and see how they do things.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You look up to these guys and you're right next to them.
Yeah, dude.
Training with them.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool too about this whole journey was like, it's just as cool to meet, big high level guys as it is to just be with the guys you train with every day. But it's just cool to say like, there was a guy named Ricky Shivers. I don't know if that's a name rings a bell. Yeah. But, I got to help him train. And actually there's another photo from way back in the day, probably like 2012, 2011. And Zach and Willie, I didn't know who the heck they were. And they showed up one day to help Ricky train. And I just happened to be there too. And so there, Zach jumped in the cage with Ricky, who's like 6'5". He's a big ass dude. So my ass wasn't getting in there with him. And he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and all this. But, and so I got to kind of poke around with Willie a little bit. It was the first time I ever met, we ever talked or got to know each other. And Ricky Shivers went on to do something called Shark Fights here in town at the Pepper Mill and fought Derek Lewis.
Really? Holy shit.
Here at the it was at the Pepper Mill. And no, not the Pepper Mill, my bad, the Nugget. So, that, and then I got to meet, some guys from Idaho. I had worked for a company that they were based in Idaho, and then they also, the guy who owned that company, this is funny now that I'm getting into all this, he also was an MMA manager. So he lived in Vegas, but he owned a bunch of home cares, right? And he would often bring around, some of these, for some reason, him and the Russian guys, and Ricky Shivers, and so there's a lot of these Russian fighters that were always around him. When they'd come to town, like they'd all go out and we'd be like these Russian dudes and shit. It was weird, but these dudes were studs. They were like they were those like young Khabib like dudes that were
really
just gnarly, just hardcore.
Yeah.
And so I got to meet a lot of those guys back in the day, and didn't train with them. That was in the beginning, and I think I might have been killed by one of them. But it's just cool over the years to meet all these people. When I was in Arizona, I got to meet a few guys that are pretty well known, and plus we've got guys that are coming up. Like, I don't know if you remember Yanni Vasquez that used to train with us.
Oh, dude, he's
Kryptonita.
Doing great.
He's got his UFC first fight, I think, in February. I think he's got it now.
I wouldn't be surprised. I see his highlights here and there. He's fucking people up. He is looking great.
And talk about a guy and that's what's so cool to see these stories, or like an Alex who went through what he went through with cancer, and and just seeing these guys persevere through stuff and become what they've always wanted to be. I always thought, and don't get a big head, Alex, but I thought he probably was one of the best. He could have been, I just think he had a lot of challenges and things going on personally or whatever, going to school and all these other things, but he was probably one of the most talented kids at one point or another.
Absolutely.
And it was not fun to spar with him,
No,
even though he was 20 years old or 19 or 18 years old.
Yeah.
And so it's just cool to see these guys get older and what they do with their lives and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and I 100% agree. I remember, was his name Khan? Do you remember Khan? Khan. He was like kind of helped Casey with like
yes, the Asian
sign-ups.
guy?
Yeah, Asian dude.
Yeah.
He was kind of always just in the background.
Yes.
He did classes every once in a while, but he was kind of in the background. But I remember me and Alex were sparring after class.
Yeah.
And we were just beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And I was trying to angle out being tall, and he wasn't fucking letting me. And Alex bounced my fucking head off of that brick wall, you know what I'm talking about, that says stronger than yesterday.
Yeah.
Dude, Khan came down and was chewing me out. I was like, what did I do? We're just sparring hard. But yeah, no, like I was telling you the other day, when I think of you, I think of the old days of I guess it would be the second gym.
Yeah.
Or third gym with Casey, and I think of in the ring. But when I think of Alex, and we've trained a few times together at Elite.
Yeah.
But I think that.
Yeah, Elite boxing.
Yeah. And it's good times. As you were speaking of, multiple minutes earlier of jumping around, is like, I'm going to get good Muay Thai at Brennan's, and I'm going to get great boxing and great cardio at Elite, because those classes just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I will say about Nevada Muay Thai, right? I was still technically full-time at Battleborn, right? And that was just strictly MMA. That was strictly MMA, mostly jiu-jitsu too. And a lot of it was street scrapping. You know what I mean? Just like there wasn't a lot of technique. Just get in there and start throwing. And going to Nevada Muay Thai really like helped me be a better striker. You know what I mean? Because I was a wrestler when I was in high school. I wrestled, for years. And then I stopped wrestling for 10 years, so I wasn't no wrestler no more. Yeah. But I had to kind of relearn that. But it was really helpful to be in those sessions at Battleborn, in these Shark Tanks and stuff, having been also to Nevada Muay Thai. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I encourage people to move around, like be committed to your gym and your guys and your people, but don't be afraid to check other places out and train elsewhere. You need that.
Have a new, fresh perspective, and then compare those perspectives. Just had a personal question on the tip of my tongue. I guess we'll get back to that.
Okay.
How has the fighting community in Reno influenced your career, and are there any local traditions or aspects that stand out?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think number one, like just the whole community as a whole. At least when I was coming up, even though there's a few separate gyms. Everybody was super cool. Everybody was like, on the same page. Everybody, would love to train with one another, and for the most part, there's probably one gym that wasn't as involved with everybody else, but, but yeah, it just created, like I was saying earlier, with that, just like that style, that Reno style, or that, the Northern Nevada style, that there's just something about guys that are from this area that you're going to have a hard time. Yeah. If you have a fight with us, you're going to have a hard time. And that's kind of a tradition to me, is that if you see a name, Reno, Nevada, next to a guy on a card, you kind of know that's going to be that's going to be a firefight. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, tradition-wise, my thing was I like to give nicknames to people. So, I don't know if you remember Daniel Reese. I called him the Chocolate Bobcat. That was his name. Yeah. And then Alex the Honey Badger. Yep. And, I think I had one for Melly Mel. I'll have to remember that. I have to think of that. But just I think we took it serious, but we did. We all, I think, and still to this day, we take it serious, but we want to have fun. We just want to have that camaraderie and. But in terms of traditions, I think it's just if you see a guy from Reno, you just better be prepared, because for the most part, you're gonna have a tough time. Even if it's a quick fight, you're gonna feel it, for a little bit before and after.
No, I love that, and it's so true. So one of the guys Carlos fought, I fought first. Yeah. And he didn't know too much about me, but he heard of a reputation of some tall guy in Reno after we talked after the fight. And he was like, dude, I didn't know if it was you. And then anyways, it definitely does go to show that like Reno does, whether Reno has a weird whatever or not, but it's a tough reputation. No matter who you're coming from or who you're fighting from Reno, you have a tough reputation.
100%. 100%. And you know, it's funny that you talk about, and you know, I wanted to get into this because it's funny when you think about, I think you were going to ask me, you may still be asking me, is who my toughest opponent was. Dude, that was on the questions I had. But
one of your opponents for the strap?
In general.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, right? In the beginning, I fought in something called Fight Republic that, you know, Matt McGovern owned, and the dude that owns Bare Knuckle Fighting.
Really?
Those two were in charge of this promotion called Fight Republic that we did at the Harris. And so I had 2 fights there, and my very first fight, right? I'm like 32 by that time, and but I've been training my ass off. I lost weight. I think I was down to 150, fighting at 155 at that point.
Awesome.
And they're like, "All right, man, you ready to jump in there?" And I'm like, "Let's go. What do we got?" And he's like, I'll let you know when we figure out who your opponent is. And it's like, okay, cool. And I'm like, oh shit, what are they gonna do? Who are they gonna pick? And next thing you know, they're like, all right, we got you a guy. He's fairly new, and they're kind of fluffing me. And I'm like, all right,
not
this
a good
sounds
start.
Weird.
Yeah.
And Rich Montoya is like, just impose your will, bro. You'll be all right. And I'm like, shit, I don't know, man. And I hear the name, his name's Joe Mavens, and I'm like, Joe Mavens, okay. I go look at his Facebook. Well, he was a Division I wrestler at North Carolina State.
Okay.
First off. Second off, I think he was like a junior college national champion from Lassen.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, so you're putting me against this dude in my very first fight. I haven't wrestled in 10 years, first off.
Yeah.
And, at least in a competitive manner. And this dude is, and he's like my build. And just super fast, super quick. Just like, you could just tell he had that fast twitch. And I'm like, dude. Yeah. What the fuck, man? This is my first fight. Yeah. And you're going to put me in with a D1 wrestler? Like, what the hell? And I'm an amateur. And I mean, I got in there. We went 3 rounds. I feel like I landed some good ones. I lost. But that probably was the toughest fight, just mentally and physically. Like, mentally, like, what's going to happen? I actually thought he was going to be more of a wrestler, and it turned out to be more of a scrap. You know what I mean? He didn't really try to take me down that much. But I wasn't much of a striker. I mean, I wasn't much towards the end either. But back then, I was very rudimentary. So, I'm just trying to throw whatever at this dude. There's like a picture of me, like, full-blown, like, swinging for the fences. I'm like this. And that was a tough fight, man. And then my second MMA fight was another dude just came off of knocking a dude out at the Reno Academy of Combat Fights.
Oh, the
knocked
blood
a dude out with a head kick. And I'm like, what the fuck? You got a D1 wrestler now. I got my second fight. I got this dude who just knocked a dude clean cold out.
Clean off a KO.
I'm like, dude, Jesus. And that's part of the reason, probably part of the reason I became, more willing to just bite down on my mouthpiece and go. Because, I'd been through those 2 fights that were not fun or easy or anything. When you start this, you're like, oh, it'd be so freaking cool to get out there. And then you get out there and it's a friggin', and back then, I don't know what it was, but the Harris would get packed. Like, it was standing room only some fights. And so, like, I'm looking out and just, to me, it's just sea of people.
So much people.
Me looking at this dude across the cage, and I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into? I'm 32. I should probably just be, which I had a day job. I've always had a career outside of this, which is challenging to say the least, to keep up with everything.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and that actually was a theme for a lot of my career, man, was that they, for some reason, I never really got the easy fights.
Well, as you were just saying with the reputation of Reno, I feel like if most people, like Kelly Nunson, the people that you start with, it's like the fight is the experience. So I'm sure people that would kind of look, I don't really want to fight him. Can you find another opponent? Yeah. Most people that we started with, it was like, oh, a fight's a fight, and we're gonna get experience whether we get fucked up or not. Yeah. So let's do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. Yep. The personal question from earlier popped up. Was your mom and family in general supportive of you starting this? Because you know it's older, later on in life.
Yeah.
I assume with your mom being a Mike Tyson fan, like being stoked for it. But what was their thought process and the words that they had?
Let's put it this way, man. She had to take a few shots before the fights, you know.
Yeah.
But she was very supportive. My family, like, what was so cool is, like, you know, I was blessed enough to have like a couple companies make me a shirt, and you know, so you know, the whole family would show up to the fights and they'd have my shirt on. So everybody supported it. Everybody would come to the fights. All my friends would come to the fights. My mom was kind of notorious for being kind of crazy, you know, at the fights, you know, and she still told me if I ever ended up in a situation where I was like severely getting my ass kicked, she might jump in the cage, so or jump in the ring. You
That's
know?
love right there.
Yeah.
That's love.
And I've had times where my uncle, you know, getting into it with like Ken Shamrock at one of the fights, and it's just cool sometimes, some of those stories. But the family all was just super supportive. They'd come to all the fights, win or lose. It was just a good time. But my mom was a staple. Like her and Matt ended up kind of like, you know, talking a lot through that time in those fights, because she'd be like, why are you putting these guys in with my son? Like, dude, what the fuck? These guys are, you know, and I'm like, Mom, it's okay. Like, you know,
it's part of it.
This is part of it. You know, I got to jump in with this dude that's 12 years younger than me that, you know, has the same amount of experience. It's just the way it is, you know? So,
nature of the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, so facing opponents who exceeded weight limits.
Yeah.
As the instance where you know, one of them, you came in 9 pounds over. How did you mentally and physically prepare for these, you know, tough challenges?
Situations?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, and that was actually my very last fight. Dude came in. It was for the 142 or 147 pound championship.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a weight above, and it was a rematch. I had fought the guy earlier in the year, and I think it was at a lower weight the first time. I'm not sure. But the second time, you know, and great kid, great dude. Like, I have nothing bad to say about
Al,
him.
right?
Not Al, Gabe.
Gabe.
Yeah.
Oh, Ramirez.
Yeah, Kid Savage or something like that.
I remember him. Yes.
Yeah, he's a beast, man. And he, unfortunately, he showed up way overweight, and there was some stuff going on, like, you know, I had even Zach on the phone because he's, you know, I don't care, I'll fight, whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, but we were also like taking considerations into things. And obviously, he wasn't going to be able to win the belt if he did win. Yeah. And I would, and I was like, well, screw it, let's just do it. And, and we'll see what happens. But you could feel it for sure. Like, for some reason, it just felt different. But again, you know, I'll be honest too. I didn't do a lot of the elbow fights. I was more kickboxing, right? I was I wasn't as much of the pure Muay Thai, and that fight was a pure Muay Thai elbows, and so I wasn't used to elbows as much.
Yeah,
and so
changes the fucking game. It's
changes
crazy.
the game big time. But very first thing that happened, which I was very good at for a long time, was not getting kicked in the head. And very first thing he threw kicked me in the head and knocked me on my ass, and that was like within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I felt like, you know, from there I was just kind of uphill battle.
Yeah.
He hit me again with a head kick in the third round, knocked me down again, which this is the only time I've ever been knocked, like, really
actually
locked
down. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? And but it didn't really like hurt. It didn't really do much. The elbows, and then, you know, when he swarmed with some elbows, and then I was like, and that's when I kind of learned too, like in probably previous fights, if that would have happened to me, I probably would have been able to get through it. But something had changed, maybe age, I don't know what. It just that was like the drive wasn't there to keep getting up. And
right.
You know, I'd already got up 3 times, and I was like, I'm fucking 36 or 37 at that time.
Yeah.
Fighting this kid that's 9 pounds. You know, and nothing against him. He's a beast.
Right. Yeah, shit happens.
Shit happens, dude. Yeah. And so, you know, he put me down in third. It was a 5-round fight. And caught me with those elbows, and the ref called it off. And I was like, in a different time, you know, when I was fighting earlier in my years, I probably would have kept going. Yeah. I probably would have been a lot nastier and been like, you're not fucking keeping me down, dude. Like, you keep knocking me. But at that point, I think in life, I was just like,
Fuck it.
I'd rather help guys that were coming up at the time and try and, be useful to them than going out there and doing this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
No, 100% understood. Throughout your career, what has been the most significant adversity you've faced, and how did you overcome it? Whether it be going up, for me personally, the reason why I like to go over to Thailand and fight is because I don't have to worry about my son or my job or anything like that. I could just throw that all to the side.
Yeah.
But there's been multiple times where it's like, okay, I'm pissed off, I'm in fight camp, I'm fucking cutting weight, and then I show up to fight and this dude's fucking 10 pounds over, and I just spent the last month and my son's pissed off, dieting, whatever, I'm not spending as much time. Whether it would be something like that, whatever, gym, work, family, for adversity wise for you?
Work, man. And I think that's something that not a lot of people knew about, or I didn't talk a lot about, and I still don't talk a lot about. But I had a pretty, good career.
Yeah.
I was, I ran an office for a staffing company, and that, I was a salesperson. You got to be in a good mood. You got to be, you got to be charming. You got to, and when you're cutting weight and you're getting punched in the face every night, so it was hard to balance, and it was hard to like come and be a professional, and then go and be a fighter. You know what I mean? That was probably the biggest challenge, because there was days I'd have to go do meetings in the morning, and then I'd be fighting that night on a Friday. You know what I mean?
Fucking crazy.
So it was like, that was probably most challenging. I wish, even to this day, two things. One, I had the opportunity to start training when I was like, right when I graduated college. 25, I was at Sports West. There was some group here in town that was starting up an MMA club or something. There was like 3 or 4 guys. They bounced at different venues around town, but they came and asked me if I wanted to help with the wrestling side of things. And I, for some reason, declined, probably because I was into partying and just raging all the time. And I wish to this day I would have just done it. I would have just went down there, because I feel like had I started at a younger age, I may have been able to make some sort of a living for a little while on this.
100%.
You know what I mean? But that was probably the biggest challenge, and still is, because I want to go to Thailand.
Yeah.
I want to go see Willie and all those guys out there and meet everybody and spend a couple months training and just learning and just, it probably just takes a lot off of your mind, and
a lot.
especially, everything, professional life, things since COVID, family, everything. Just to go out there and train and just enjoy life. It sounds amazing, but career, number one. Career,
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because it's something that, maybe mindset or, bad habits, whatever, those topics get brought up, but nobody talks about the day-to-day. You wake up, you train super early in the morning, and then you have to put on some bullshit smile throughout the rest of the day.
Man.
And you do give a shit, right? Because it's your income, but at the end of the day, you care more about not getting knocked out and fucking doing your
in
100%.
front of a bunch of people.
Exactly, your family, your friends. Maybe your ladies there, whoever, who knows. But
it's funny you say that. It's like, the company I work for is pretty large. They're out of Delaware at the time, and my boss, who was pretty high up there, she's like the VP of sales, and she would notice every time I was cutting weight, because she would be like, "You're always grumpy when you're." That's how I know when you're getting ready for a fight, because you're grumpy and you're just short, and you don't want to. I'm short anyway, obviously, but no, short from that standpoint. And, and so it's funny to try and fake it till you make it at work when you got to fight. You know what I mean? Coming up.
100%. So. What helped you mindset wise in and outside of the ring with that adversity?
I've always had the mindset, and it says it, he conquers who endures. That's kind of a phrase that I have on my shoulder. And it's like, if you can endure it, if you can get through it, if you cannot quit, if you don't quit, then something good's going to happen. You're going to either learn a lesson, you're going to accomplish what you set out to accomplish, or very rarely when you endure something and even if it's not a positive experience, but you just went through it, it's going to strengthen you, and it's going to make you harder to stop. You know what I mean, in anything. And so That's something that I learned, early on, in sports,
Yeah.
in general, but
Yeah.
in life too. It's like, no matter how hard times are or how challenging things are, like you have to, you can't quit.
Yeah.
You just got to keep pushing through. And if you endure whatever you're going through, then in my mind, you've won.
You've conquered it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. How has your involvement in the sport transformed you as an individual?
Yeah, I would say, like I said, coming in, when I first started training, I thought I was Mr. Tough Guy out there. I thought, I'd go to concerts and we'd get in scraps and all this stuff, like
Yeah.
we're tough guys.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's kind of cliche, but people say it's like, the more capable you are of something, of violence in particular,
Yeah.
like the less you have to prove it to other people, or you have to
100%.
the less you have to show that I'm a tough guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that changed. I mean, I still talk my shit. I still do my thing
100%.
sometimes.
100%.
But for the most part, it humbled me. Getting my ass kicked by a girl in my second week. You know.
Yeah.
And but also all the ass kickings I got over the years, and
Right.
and all the scraps and good and bad and whatever. It was just it taught me a lot just about life in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. What where do you think you would have been if you didn't pursue a career in combat sports? Where do you think life would have taken you?
Yeah, probably close to where I am now. Now I'm with a group. We're trying to build a business, and this probably would have started that 20 years ago or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I've always, though, like you were saying earlier, you've got a kind of an idea of what you wanted to do or you want to do, but you're in a space to do, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I always wanted to be in the promoting business and all the, or coaching or owning a gym and all that stuff. So that's still actually on my radar.
Yeah.
But back then, obviously, I didn't have the knowledge, understanding. I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu and any of that stuff. But
Right.
had I not got into fighting, I would have wanted to do something to do with fighting.
Yeah.
In
Promotion, coaching, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a purposeful life.
Yeah.
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 Meaningful.
Meaningful. Yeah. One where you can, I think too that changes people's lives when you're, like those guys, the Brennans, the Zachs, the Caseys, the Memos, these guys that are still holding these training sessions, the Matt Tonkin, right?
Yes.
Tonkin Fight Team. Shout out to those guys. Like that was a great time for me, being a part of that team and being with those guys. But, sorry, what was that you were asking?
Where would you be if you didn't take a career in fighting, and where do you think life would have taken you?
Yeah, and that's what
coaching,
I meant. Is
promoting.
Like, yeah, they set people up for success, whatever it is, and they're helping people, whether it's personally, mentally, physically, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Their job is not just to teach them how to fight, but to help them become good people and men, for the younger guys.
Yes, good grown men, good grown women. Matt was always, Tonkin specifically, he was always a very good influence on anybody. Whether you were in class or outside of class, same goes for Memo. And some people ask me, because I'm always referred to my son's bigger brother, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm so young, right? Where he's like, oh yeah, you're his brother? I'm like, no, he's my son.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I give a lot of credit, obviously to Matt and to Memo, but specifically to Casey, that grew so much maturity as me as a young man. Because back in the day, to go off on a tangent real quick, I got into a street fight with somebody that was at the gym. I didn't know that they went to the gym. He was on the Gracie side.
Yeah.
And this was me in high school doing stupid shit, like right before my son was born.
Yeah.
And we just fucking fought over in Reno High. Okay, so it was like fucking high school, like out in the parking lot or whatever.
Yeah.
My homie fought one of his fucking homies or whatever, and then Casey pulled me aside. He's like, and I didn't think that was just like me I was outside of the gym. Like I didn't think it would affect my gym time, But Casey pulled me aside, and I'll never forget it. He was like, we're hearing something about like you. It was Dean Sloves. You remember Dean? Dean. I didn't fight him. I didn't fight him, but he brought it up.
Yeah,
he brought
yeah.
it up because he
That's
knew.
Dean for you.
Yeah, he brought it up,
starting
and
shit.
then Casey was like, "Hey, Dean's telling me that blah blah blah." I don't really care. It's just don't do it again.
Yes.
And you need to understand that Muay Thai is not something to be, cocky about. It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. And gosh, did it take a long time to understand that. But I specifically remember that. And I give credit to all those guys on building me as a good man.
Casey's a great dude. I actually knew Casey from college days.
Did you really? I know that.
When he was fighting.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about that.
I used to just run into him he used to be jacked. He used to be a big dude.
Yeah.
And I'd run into him at the gym there at Jock Travis Student Union, I think it was, or some shit like that at UNR.
Uh-huh.
And, but I'd see him there all the time. And then, there was some article about him around the school about his MMA, or I think he was doing Muay Thai or something at the time.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so many funny stories, but this I got to tell you a couple. One on Memo too, which is kind of funny.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I'd see him all the time. I think we talked a few times. I didn't know him all that well, and then fast forward a few years, 5-6 years, and he's my coach. I'm like, whoa, This is crazy, man. I remember hearing about Casey like back in the day.
Yeah.
I had heard about Brennan when I was at Battleborn, because I think we had a dude at Battleborn that was going to fight Brennan.
Yeah.
And we were like,
Small
dude, you're going to get your
world.
fucking ass kicked, bro. Like, Brennan's a beast, man. Because we watched him fight at we watched, the first time I ever saw Brennan fight, I think was at the Harley Davidson thing in Carson City? I don't remember. But he just slaughtered some dude. I think he submitted him or something, and we were like, "Shit, man! Like, good luck."
Good luck, yeah.
And this kid thought he was gonna whoop somebody's ass, but I was like, "I don't know, man."
Yeah,
I got
humble
stuff.
beating, good,
Yeah.
good.
And then Memo. The funny thing about him, right, is I'd always seen him. We kind of ran similar crowds, and one day, me, my girlfriend at the time, and my best friend to this day now, his name's Mike, went to a fight down on the Indian reservation, right?
Yeah.
And he was actually married. Memo was married to a girl that I went to high school with, and so I saw her there, and she's like, "Yeah, my boyfriend's fighting tonight," and I'm like, "Oh, cool, yeah." And the music hits, and I could have sworn to God a WWF wrestler just came out of the back, dude. Like, Memo was fucking jacked, and my buddy's like, do you fucking see this guy?
Yeah.
Like, there was muscles upon muscles, dude.
Yeah,
And he's still like that. But,
fucking huge.
But back then, it was like, dude.
Even bigger.
What is
yeah.
he? What is he on, bro?
Yeah,
like, what the fuck? And he destroyed this guy. And that's my first, like, ever experience with, like, watching Memo do that. And I was like, dude, this guy's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Like, he came out of the back, and, like, there's like the whole crowd was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and so that was just funny to me. And still this day, me and my best friend talk about it. And Memo became one of my best friends, still is.
Yeah.
Like we I haven't got a chance to really connect with him and those guys since I got back to Reno. But
Right.
But we had great times too. I got to go out there in Fresno and corner him.
I remember that. Yeah.
Corner him, and he had
fought a big ass black dude that
big
day.
ass.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
From I forget the place. From where Mikey Shaw fought.
Gotcha. Valor.
Yeah, back
Stockton.
in the day. Yeah, and you talk about, just beasts, man. Like, some of the guys that I had the opportunity to fight, Mikey Shaw and Gabe, and I don't know if you're familiar with Brady Wang, but he's 10-0, or I think he was just on Dana White's Contender Series, like, last season,
Really?
I think. He fought Adrian Yanez, who's a freaking monster.
Holy
in
shit.
the who's a pretty legit in the UFC.
Yeah.
But he was my third MMA fight, and he was as an amateur, I think, is where he cut his chops, and then he became a pro, and he was like got to 10-0 before he had a loss.
That's awesome.
And so and there's so many others to mention. Al was Al was. That's the funny thing. When I went and cornered Memo in Fresno, Al fought on that card, and he like
murdered someone,
beat the shit out of some guy.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Memo, like, dude, I wonder how I do against some of these guys.
Yeah.
Because it was like a different thing out there. Like there were so many gyms out there.
Yep.
Like the place was packed. The main event was nuts. Which the main event they tried to put me against years later against that guy, Marcel, I forget his last name. but he was a big time guy from the California, scene. And he fought another dude from Coke.
Yeah.
Not or what's his name? Coke Can.
Fucking something super
one of those
long.
guys.
Yeah, Thai
one
name.
of those Thai guys.
Yeah.
And it was a war, and he knocked the dude out, and the whole place went nuts. That was the final fight. But when Al fought, I was like, I watched him. I watched Reno fight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these dudes are freaking good, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, years later, I fought Al, and I'm like, holy shit. And I remember I sent Willie a video of Al, of a fight that before I fought Al. And Willie was like, good luck, dude. Like, he's pretty technical. He's looked pretty good. And I'm like, I know, bro. Like, but that was what was weird. That fight that night, man, there was something weird for me because I had zero nerves. It was weird.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So, and talk about that night. Talk about that night when you fought Al.
Yeah.
And because it's a full circle moment, right?
Yeah.
Like you saw him. Oh, that'll be interesting. I wonder how I do. Boom.
Yeah.
The universe answers, right?
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah.
Talk about your mindset and how you dealt with the nerves.
Yeah.
If you felt you did better when you had no nerves, right? Or you felt you did better when you had nerves.
Yeah. That night was weird, dude. I've had something weird happen 2 times in my life where in an athletic environment.
Right.
Where it was simple in my mind. It was not stressful. Like before that fight against Al, I was sitting on a stool and just kicking it, dude. Yeah. Like everybody's over here talking and I'm about to walk out and I'm just kicking it. Like I've never been like that, right? Yeah. And I went out there and just everything just clicked. It was weird. It was just like I knew what he was doing before he fucking did it.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, I think he would, it would have been a different story. But for some reason, and Casey put me through some gnarly rounds before that, like it was like go, pads. And I was just constantly throwing, constantly moving. And that is what the fight went like too. So like Casey put me through an amazing camp too. And I think that helped with the confidence. But for some reason, something came over me where I was just like, this is going to be awesome. Yeah. Like this, I'm not worried at all.
I'm here to do my job.
I'm not worried at all, and even though I was thinking about when I watched back in the day and the other fights that he's had since then. But yeah, dude, that was very weird. And the only other time that happened was when I was in high school wrestling. Yeah. And I ended up in the state championships and for somehow made it to the 3rd place match. And the guy I was wrestling was like a 2-time 3A state champion, and well known. And somehow I did the same thing. Didn't have any nerves, nothing. Went in there, dominated. I wasn't supposed to. Same thing with Al. So, that's 2 times that I've never been able to, like, what? It was just something weird that came over me that I just performed the best that I could have possibly performed.
People throw this word out, but would you say that you were in the flow state?
Yeah.
Like you're
100%.
very, very just moving like water type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And before I knew it, it was like the 3rd round. And I think Brendan or Casey or even Alex, one of them, or Trin, somebody in my corner was like, dude, you're up 3-0. Like you're fucking gliding through this. I'm like, I know, this is fucking weird.
I'm having a great time.
And then, but it was starting to hurt because that dude could kick like a mule and my legs were damaged heavily, and I was like, shit, man. Yeah. And I remember distinctly, like, the beginning of the 5th round, he hit me with a leg kick, and I was like, oh god, like I gotta push through this shit. Yeah. And I could hardly walk afterwards for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And in fact, I remember going back to the gym the first day back to the gym. Who do I get to spar with? Just guess. Zach, yeah. And he hits me with a leg kick, and I felt like my leg snapped in half. It was great.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Shit, that's awesome. What do you think? So you fought really good people, man. Gabe is still fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still fighting. No disrespect to him, but I feel like you fought him in his prime. Okay. You know what I mean? Like he's had some steps down, he's had some steps up, and it's just kind of like a very neutral level where he's at.
Yeah.
Solid fucking dude. What is your what was one of your favorite matches, one of your favorite fights in those days? Was it against Al? Was it against Mikey? Ooh,
yeah.
What do you think?
Man, there's so many good ones, man. There were so many good ones. I had there was one fight that had a really good friend of mine pass away, literally the night before the fight.
Fuck.
And the guy that I fought, was also savage, just built like a tank. You know what I mean? That was a good fight, but I think another thing was like, I liked also the fights that I could go in and just impose my will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a couple fights there that I was just like, again, not totally in the flow state, but I was just clicking. You know what I mean? Those were fun. Like I had fun in those. And then I had a fight, an MMA fight at WFC, and it was for a girl that had cancer that I went to high school with, and so I donated the purse. Matt actually matched it. Matt McGovern matched it, and it was an amazing fight. It was MMA, so I still didn't consider myself very good at MMA. Just for some reason, I couldn't put it all together, So it was either striking or MMA, you know what I mean, on the ground.
Right.
But somehow I was doing well on the feet. This kid was long, tall, but it was just a fun fight, and it ended with a TKO. I TKO'd him, and it was for a good cause, and so that was probably my favorite one, dude. That was cool.
That's fucking sick, and not too many people can say that they fought for that cause, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, I guess we went over this. I'll ask it anyways.
Yeah,
among the victories that you've had, which fight stands out and most memorable? It would be that one, right?
Yeah, that one and the Al fight. Like I said, I keep this out still because it was a major accomplishment for me. Not because it's at any certain level, and not because it's it was something for me that I set out to do. I told my friends, like I said, in the bar. Before I ever walked into a gym, I told my buddies, I'm going to probably try to do like 10 fights and stop and win a championship of some sort.
Yeah.
And I did that. And I think I overextended that time frame and kept going. But that was important to me because it was something that I set up for and accomplished.
Yeah. And I think if you have one of those, right, whether it's MMA or Muay Thai or kickboxing, same, right? But if you have one of those, even the IKF belts in California, there's a statement to be made that at a certain period of time, you were the best in the state, right? And it's a national title, but it's in this state, you can confidently say, without a doubt, without any question, you were the best.
Yeah.
And, you don't get it twisted for any second that little Alex didn't want that belt.
Yeah.
I didn't want that belt. You know what I mean? Like we all wanted that belt. And we saw, Zach and Willie and all you, right? All coming back with the straps. And that's, obviously accolades at the end of the day are just accolades, but still it's the shiny and the way Matt made it, it's fucking awesome. It's a sick belt, man.
Yeah.
I would keep it up 100%.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and like you said, it came from a good lineage.
100%.
Willie was there. Willie that was a champion first. And, and I, got to be the one right after him. So that was pretty cool.
It's gorgeous, man.
Yeah.
Which opponent posed the greatest challenge to you, and what did you learn from that experience?
Man, that's a good question. Like, that's something from Matt McGovern. That dude wanted to make me fight the best dudes in California that he could find.
Well, they find somebody good. They're calling the Reno
every time.
guys.
So, sorry, what was that question again, Damon?
Just which opponent posed the greatest challenge to you?
So Brady was tough in MMA. From a kickboxing Muay Thai standpoint, it felt different after 35. After I turned 35, for some reason, it didn't feel as comfortable in there. And so my two fights with Gabe were probably the most challenging for some reason.
Yeah.
I couldn't really put my finger on it and why, but it was
whole bunch of new different aspects. You got the elbows, and then you got the age. And you got mindset, right?
Yeah. But even the first fight wasn't with elbows. The first fight was just strictly. And that was very close. I felt I won. I thought I knocked him down the first round. They didn't give it to me.
Yeah.
Which that's a gripe I have with a few of my fights.
I
swear to God, I got robbed a few times on knockdowns. But
100%.
But it was more so like just like awkwardness. I felt awkward in there at that point.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And it was literally only two fights after the Al fight. But I think to me, like I said, it was age. I probably made a bad decision to go do an MMA fight after that Al fight. I probably should have just kept on.
Yeah.
But for some reason I had it in my mind I wanted to try to win that MMA thing.
Yeah.
And And so yeah, it just was very different for me. It felt very awkward for some reason, and it showed in the Tahoe, my very last fight, and that it just was. It felt weird. Didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't as in tune to things because I never got hit with head kicks for a long time from anybody really.
Yeah.
But man, first thing got nailed right in the first round.
Fucking crazy. Yeah. Just a couple more for you. Participating in that 4-5 round championship fights is a significant achievement, right?
Sure.
How did you prepare for the high level stake bouts, and what did those experiences teach you about yourself outside of the ring?
Yeah, and it's another cliche thing, but it's not about what you do in front of everybody. It's about what you do behind the scenes.
Yeah, behind the doors.
And particularly in those ones, I had a regimen in the mornings where I'd go do a treadmill workout, and it's hard to explain, but it's 10 rounds of 5, and you increase the ramp of it and the speed every single round. And so you go 10 rounds of that, and you've got at the time you have a sauna suit on, and I was by myself in my condo gym, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I did that multiple times a week. Nobody was around, and that was outside of going to the gym and putting in sparring and all that stuff. But to me, that's it. It's like it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, yes, it matters what you do in front of others.
Sure.
And setting a standard and whatnot. But to me, it's what you do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That nobody knows about.
Yeah.
That's gonna get you there.
100%.
Yeah.
So I know the answer of this question, but for all the people that need to know the man that held, Reno, Nevada on his back going through multiple fights.
Thanks,
how did you come to be known as the Bomber? And is there a story behind this nickname that you'd be willing to share?
Man, I don't know where honestly it kind of came just because I threw a lot of punches. I just go out there and swing. And obviously my favorite punch and the one that just came naturally to me was the overhand right. And I would throw that thing in anytime I could. And somehow I got good at it. And I figured out, like, if somebody has a lazy jab, if somebody, I can come right over that. If somebody doesn't get their hand back in time, if I figured out little times that it would probably work. Yeah. And so, and I was lucky enough that I had enough power to knock a few dudes down with it, Yeah. And so they kind of started calling me fucking Bomber, man. You just go out there and just throw bombs on people. Yeah. And it was cool to be mentioned. That was cool because it's one thing to make your own nickname, but it's cool when other people are like, dude, you're like a fucking bomber. You just go out there and just fucking throw bombs at people. Because I rarely took the time to throw a little jab here. Yeah. No, man, I'm coming out. I'm throwing hooks and uppercuts and overhand rights and shit like that. Rarely was I throwing the 1-2s and shit like that. So that's where my flaws in technique came, and where I probably, had I been younger and kept going and learned more about the boxing part of it, where it's 1-2s and the jabs and setting that stuff up, I probably would have been a lot more successful. But hell, throwing bombs and just going out there and swinging for the fences worked pretty good.
Worked really well. I remember even when I think you had you were taking a break, maybe it was your knee or something, but I remember everybody with that. It was kind of like an orangish red shirt. Mm-hmm. You remember that, your merch shirt?
Yeah.
It was like Adam the Bomber. Yeah. And then boom. Yeah. Fucking, I remember.
Actually, it's right there.
Is it really?
Yeah, I can grab it real quick.
Grab that shit.
There's a couple of them, actually. Old school, man.
Hell yeah, dude.
There's that one. That's actually Adamant Fightwear. Yeah. Not around anymore. Shout out John Poole. He used to sponsor me, do a bunch of cool shit for me. There's Co-Manu.
That's the one that I remember.
And then Make Your Momentum there. Good friend of mine, Chuck's company. So yeah, man, I was lucky enough to have people support me and want to do stuff like this for me, and it was just that stuff I'll never forget. It's just super cool. Yeah. And I got people friends from all over the country that were like, "Yo, send me one of those." You know what I mean?
That's fucking awesome, man.
For somebody that's not not as high level as I wish I would have been, and got to. It's cool to have that kind of shit, amazing, to look back on. But
it's amazing.
But it's all really, honestly, to wrap it up, it's all thanks to all the people that I met and got to train with over the years, and the Caseys and the Matt Tonkins and the Gary Greats and the Brennans and the Zacks and Willies and you know, Rich Montoya and just all these people, coaches and people that I got to train with, and I just owe it all to them, man. It was just such a good time. Part of my 30s were probably my favorite part of my life up to now. It's just because even over college years and all that shit, just because I met so many cool people, had so many cool experiences, and I still get to see guys that I used to train with or fight with or whatever, spar, get to see what they're doing these days, and a lot of them are still doing it, are still out there competing and at a high level, really high level. And so I'll never forget that part of my life. That was such a good time, which I want to get back into, right?
Speak on that. Speak on like, because you're talking about Thailand. Maybe me and you go over there one day.
Hell yeah.
Why not take a fight over there?
Dude, I totally would, man.
Yeah, I
totally would. I've told Willie that.
Speak on the comeback of the Bomber.
Yeah, dude, I would go out.
What's your thoughts?
Well, next year I do want to go out there. I've got some things to figure out personally.
Yeah.
But I know you got a plan to go, so maybe I can jump on with you.
Yeah.
But I'll fight a tuk-tuk driver too. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'll go out there and get in there with somebody. Just for the fun of it, you know what I mean? Just to do it again, feel it again, but do it in the homeland and where it came from, and be able to experience all the culture and everything, like what Willie's, and some of those guys have lived through out there, and you being out there, I know a number of people that have just raved about how it changed their life almost, like just and getting out there and being able to jump in the ring again. Yeah, I've seen, but I've watched a lot of those retreats, on Instagram, and you see guys that are 60, 65, 70 years old still out there. They'll go out there every year and train for a couple of weeks or a month.
Yeah. And
come home. And that's what I want to get to, where I could travel to places and maybe have fights and maybe train and whatnot.
Fuck yeah, man.
So
let's do it.
But yeah, in recent, and I want to give a shout out to Performance EDU. Goose, Ryan Golick is a trainer of mine, and he's been working with me for the last 12 weeks, probably longer than that, 15 weeks to help me get my body back, because I went through a situation where a health scare and just been working on myself, and so I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I think I can get back in there and shake it up a little bit and have a little bit of fun. And spar and train again and be a benefit maybe to the guys that are coming up and doing it in there now.
Absolutely.
So that's my goal is to get back and be helpful, maybe even help coach, maybe even, train, help the guys get ready by sparring, let them beat me up a little bit and see what happens.
Well, dude, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, brother. Hell yeah.
Appreciate you.
Good times.